Hello, beautiful souls, my fellow brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Live Fully Now podcast. With me, your host, Shannon Ryan. This is a place where we discover how to go from merely surviving to really stepping into a life where we are thriving and living in our fullest expression, a place where we can really be in a state of abundance and bliss. And those are the states that are our birthrights. So I am so excited and honored to be here with you this week. And I'm so excited to share with you some of the major insights, some of the downloads, some of the topics that have come up for me that I have been exploring in my own being and in my own body recently. And the main one that I wanted to get into today is about the nervous system. So get ready. And for those of you who are listening only by audio, if you do feel called to see this on video, it is available on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, and also on Spotify. So feel free to check it out that way if you are interested in seeing any fantastic outfits or really connecting to my energy, my essence. I know that being in video and audio is sometimes a lot more helpful to really connect and anchor into that being's essence and their being in general. So that is available and accessible for you if you desire. Also, if you are a listener that is enjoying this podcast, please, I would love if you could leave a review if it resonates with you, to boost the algorithm so we can have more of these type of conversations and really bring awareness to the collective. Really, that is my intention for the highest and greatest good of all beings, and sharing it with anyone who you feel could benefit from receiving this conversation, these topics, or in any way, shape, or form. So that is all there. And without further ado, let's dive in to the nervous system. So I want to start by saying that this is really quite embarrassing for me to just now be really realizing that, how much I didn't know about the nervous system. I am a nurse, I have studied intensively all of the systems of the body, not to mention my past 10 to 15 years of self study in Eastern philosophy and wisdom traditions like yoga and meditation and energy healing and just really esoteric, poetic musings and all sorts of different lineages and teachings. And the fact, obviously, like I know about the nervous system, right? However, it wasn't until recently that I really had this aha moment and this point where I connected it to everything. And it was really profound. And so I have been on this healing journey for probably, I would say, 15 years. Let's see. So since maybe like 12 years, that's really when it shifted for me, probably around 25. And so since then, I've been exploring all different things. In like to include what I was saying before. I think my first access point was through yoga. However, before that, I would say that I have been a student of life since the moment I was conceived into this earth. And I believe fully that my mother, or my soul chose my mother to be a flight attendant. And, we grew up seeing different cultures and different ways of life and really living in the simplicity of villages and volunteering and all of that. So that has been my greatest teacher, to be honest, traveling and being a student of life in this earth school, really learning about all the things like the basic survival needs and just different ways of life, different cultures. It really opens your perspective, your mind, and I think really makes you want to learn and explore and be curious. And it's always been something that has allowed me to see the bigger picture, right? I've always identified since I can remember as being able to see the bigger picture and always wondering, like, this is what is going on here. This is so not right, sort of thing. Um, so yeah, I definitely have been on the healing journey for a while. And I would say with the really strong catalyst was around 2 years ago. For those of you who have listened to the podcast before, you're probably familiar with this story, so I won't go too into it. But um, long story short is that I left a marriage and left this Western ideal of what was successful and normal, which was the house and the husband and the job as a nurse and all of that. And I really, for the first time, listened to the call of my soul, of my intuition, and that call was to go to the Amazon and sit with the plant medicine ayahuasca. And so that is really like the next of part of the cycle for me, and it's been really a deeper understanding. I would say before it was more of an intellectual understanding that I had about these different healing modalities and beliefs. However, as of the last 2 years or so, maybe even longer, um, I had an inner standing. So inner standing is like an inner knowing. And this is the difference between the intellectual mind and the inner knowing in your body, right? And that's a space where you can really be in embodiment, because when you feel it and know it to be true in your body, you don't feel like it's almost as if the ego is taken out of it, taken out of the equation, because you no longer need to defend what you believe. You no longer need to explain to somebody why. You just know it to be true. And sometimes you don't even know why you know it to be true, you know? And I believe that those are things that are carried down through lineages, through past lives, things like that. These inner knowings of what we know to be true. And we don't necessarily need to have concrete evidence or anything to prove it. We just know. And that's the beauty of the intuition. That's the beauty of that inner wisdom, that inner guru, that inner guide, that inner healer. And connecting to that is such a beautiful space to be when you know it to be true with every fiber of your being. And there's no emotional charge to it because it just is your truth. And so that's really been a place that I've been in multiple ways over the past 2 years. However, that being said, I've also done a lot of inner child work. I have done so much growth and healing work, right? And at points I'm like, well, surely like this is enough, right? When is this going to be done? At points I'll think that, and then it's like I'm just kind of like my inner my inner critic, or my inner one of my sub personalities, or the divine or my higher self, just kind of laughs at me and is like, ha ha ha, yes child, you know, I you're never going to be done, right? And that's the truth, is that for one, the healing journey is not linear, right? So yes, I've done all this work and brought a lot of awareness to a lot of my trauma and a lot of things that have occurred in my life. However, um, this is never going to be done, and one day I might be really good and the next day I might not be, and it's an up and down journey. And it's so important that we can really sit with and honor all parts of ourselves, all aspects of ourselves. We have to be willing to look at the shadow, look at the darkness, in order to really fully sit with the light. And that is all about what this existence, what this realm, what this manifest reality that we're living in is all about. It's all about polarity, and one cannot exist without the other. And I feel as though in our culture, we've been conditioned to see darkness as bad. And it's like, no, that's so wrong. Our darkness is not bad, is not something to be feared. It's simply an aspect of the light. You know, it's just a different frequency of the light. They're both the same thing, but just expressed differently. And one could not exist without the other. So it's so important, if you are on a healing journey, or you do desire to be on this journey of growth and self-development, to sit with your shadow, to sit with your shame, to sit with your doubt, to sit with your uncertainty, to sit with your pain, to sit with your feelings, your emotions, and to not run away from them, or to fear them. Because I think that so many of us just are so afraid of this thing inside of us, and we tend to push it down and run away from it. I know that I have done that in so many circumstances, in so many ways, and it's just not healthy. Emotions are meant to be expressed, they're meant to be felt and then moved through. So if we can really just look at them and then say hello and feel them and move through them, we can really do the healing, right? And so the part that I have understood this and had a lot of awareness about this, and I have felt a lot of my feelings, a lot of my emotions. I have done shadow work, etc. However, I was still showing up in this way that was being triggered, that was feeling overwhelmed, that was feeling anxiety, that was just really irritable, agitated on one side, and then on others was very shut down and withdrawn. And I had this aha moment the other day about the nervous system. I was watching a training from one of my teachers, and it's funny actually, because I feel like almost myself, part of myself was avoiding diving into the nervous system, because I have so many friends, so many teachers, so many guides that teach this, and for some reason I've always been like, no, I don't need that, I'm good, I'm better than that, I've already done that. And it's like, I feel like our souls, or our bodies, whatever you want to call it, some part of ourselves avoids and has resistance to things that can actually help us. And so it makes sense that I avoided it for so long, because it is the key, that the missing key to my embodiment. It is the missing key, the missing puzzle piece to being in my full expression. And so discovering this the other day, or last week, was so empowering. And I've really been able to learn some simple techniques on how to get back into regulation. So for those of you who are new about the nervous system, basics are, and so the way that I was educated actually was that there's just a parasympathetic nervous system and a sympathetic nervous system, just two. And that, the parasympathetic was rest and digest, where you can be regulated and where you can be calm and digest your food and you feel safe. And the sympathetic nervous system is where you're in fight or flight, right? And that's where you're really stimulated and hyper aroused. However, what I found out recently in this teaching that I listened to was actually that there's three states. There's a hypo-regulated state and a hyper-regulated state. So the hypo-arousal is when you feel, it's called dorsal. And that's when you feel like you want to withdraw. That's when you might, for me, it shows up as laziness. It shows up as defeat. It shows up as withdrawal. It shows up as depression. It shows up as sluggishness, as slowness, as really just like failure to thrive, um, and isolation and hiding and just running away. And it's like complete defeat. So when I'm in this state, I tend to just want to numb out and watch TV and not talk to anyone. Um, and it's really not a good place to be in, right? So that's the hypo arousal. The hyper arousal is a sympathetic response. Okay. So that is the fight or flight. That is actually the where you're in this really survival state. And that is, for me, it shows up as agitation, it shows up as irritation, it shows up as overwhelm, anxiety, just chaos. And the interesting part about this is that you there's ways in which you can actually bring yourself back to equilibrium, and equilibrium is given to you by your vagus nerve. So it's all about the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is one of the cranial nerves, and it's actually located right here. It goes all the way to your brain, all the way down your body, and it is the main nerve that stimulates your rest and digest so that you can go into a state of feeling safe and you can relax and not be on high alert. And it is so when you're in hyperarousal, when you're in sympathetic response, what you're doing is your body is not able to physiologically think clearly. So what it does is it actually cuts off circulation to the prefrontal cortex of your brain. And the prefrontal cortex is the place where you make decisions, where critical thinking comes in. So this was like wow to me, because for me, I would say that for most people, either you tend to go to one side or the other, the hypo arousal or the hyper arousal. I definitely have been in both states. However, I tend to go towards hyper arousal. I tend to be more in that really stimulated, overstimulated, irritable, anxious, restless, overwhelmed feeling. And it's so I have so much more compassion for myself now that I understand this better, because what's happening is actually physiologically, I can't think clearly. Like my brain is not working right, you know? I don't have blood in the front of my brain, so no wonder I can't make decisions. No wonder I can't take on any more sensory input. Like for me, if I'm in that state, and there's bright lights or bright sounds or fast moving things, I feel like I'm going to panic, right? And I need to come back down. And I didn't ever put two and two together that this is all related to my nervous system. It's such a game changer when we can bring awareness around what state we're in. So, if you haven't done this, I would invite you to really kind of be aware, just kind of sit with your body and for a few days and bring your awareness to what these symptoms are. If you feel hyper aroused, what comes up for you? And if you feel hypo aroused, what comes up for you? And then we can learn techniques if you from either state that you're in to bring you back into that space of vagal tone, into that space of homeostasis, of balance, and of regulation. And what's interesting for me is that most all of the work that I've done on my trauma, I've kind of peeled the onion back and understand that pretty much every one of those threads leads back to safety for me. Not feeling safe, not feeling safe. And understanding now that, like, oh my God, that's what the job of the nervous system is to begin with. That's what that's what this primitive system in our brains that all animals have, that is the thing that is making me either feel safe or unsafe. Because when I am in sympathetic response, I am in fight or flight. I'm thinking that I'm in danger, right? And so it really translates to every aspect of my life. And it's just been a huge awareness and like aha moment about how dysregulated I've been, and how healing my nervous system is really the key to my success and to my thriving in this body, in this realm. And I have been understanding and brought a lot of awareness to how this has affected the people in my life. So I tend to be in that hypoarousal, and in that state, I'm easily irritated, I'm easily agitated, I'm easily triggered. So I'm very short with people that I love, or it's a space where I'm constricted, like physiologically, energetically, in every way. When you're in fight or flight, your vessels in your body close down, vasoconstriction. you are closed. You are not in a state of expansion. You are not in a state of being able to receive. You're not in a state of open-heartedness. You're not in a state of being able to connect with other beings. So it's like, well, duh, if that's what you're desiring, you're literally giving the energetic message to other people from your body that you aren't able to connect. And so it's really interesting and fascinating, um being able to understand when I'm in this state and how to regulate myself, because for so much of my life I have been externalizing and seeking to have my needs met outside of myself. And that's really the journey that I've been on in the past 2 years, especially being single and having to really learn how to self-soothe and how to um, be able to meet my own needs rather than outsourcing my authority and my power and my agency to others and expecting them to help me and then getting upset when they aren't able to meet my needs. It's like, no, 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 you need to meet your own needs, girlfriend. And so learning how to do that has been amazing. And obviously, it's a work in progress, and it will probably be something that I continue to work on forever, because that's kind of how the nervous system works. You can't really just force specific things to come up and come through. You have to just be with what is in the moment. And when it does come up, sit with it and work through it and understand and understand it and have compassion towards yourself and what's going on in your body. And that's really what I've learned recently as well. But know now on a deeper level to be true is that the body really keeps the score. And if you haven't read that book, it is absolutely fantastic. So informative and inspiring. But again, before, for me, that was like a intellectual understanding and a knowing, but like I didn't quite wasn't able to quite connect it as deeply as I desired with my body. And that's been the main kind of block that I've been in, is that I want to be fully embodied, right? And so you can't be fully embodied if your nervous system isn't regulated, is my main takeaway. And so that's really been the medicine for me right now, is noticing when I'm in these states, bringing myself back to regulation. And that also has taught me that how to communicate more clearly and how to create boundaries. So for example, if somebody calls me and I'm in a hyper aroused state and my phone is giving me anxiety because all the notifications and everything, I'm going to not answer the phone if someone I love is calling, because I know that I'm going to not be of service. I am not going to be able to connect with them. I am not going to be able to make my needs clear, communicate clearly, or make decisions or think clearly. So it's not a good time to speak to them. However, having that awareness and bringing myself back to regulation and then calling them back, that is a game changer, because then I'm not emotional dumping. Then I'm not taking things out on other people, taking out my stuff on others, or projecting or any of that stuff, because it's not fair. And I know that I've done that so much in my life, and I did it without any awareness around it, necessarily around how my my frequency and my nervous system was affecting my relationships and my ability to communicate and make decisions. So um, it's also taught me how to have better boundaries, and to clearly communicate, like I said. So in that sort of situation, I just had one with my mom. So she called, I didn't answer, I called her back when I was ready. I explained to her what was going on, and I said I was not in a state of regulation, I was dysregulated. So I had to bring myself back to regulation. And now I'm in a space that's open to connect. And my boundary is that I'm not going to communicate. Or if you do call and I am not regulated, I will tell you simply, calmly, "Hey, mom, I'm feeling really, or I'm in a state of dysregulation right now, and I would love to connect with you, but now's not the right time. Thank you, love you." And so therefore, I'm not unconsciously taking anything out on her, but I'm also communicating clearly and having clear boundaries. And it, at the end, ultimately benefits both me and her. So, like I said, it's really been a game changer, and I am such a nerd right now, geeking out about the nervous system and how this works. And another thing to mention is that co-regulation. So co-regulation is being around other people. And so our bodies are so intelligent. Our bodies can pick up on what state other people are in, and being around somebody else who's out of alignment, or somebody who is dysregulated, can bring you into a state of dysregulation rather than. And when you're near somebody who has a regulated nervous system, just touching them, hugging them, being around them, you can go back to being in a regulated state. It's pretty amazing stuff, you guys. We are primal beings. We are wired to connect with others, just like animals, you know? And so it is so important also to be around other human beings and to co-regulate our nervous systems with other beings too. One of the things that came up the other night, which it's just a theory and I have no basis for it being true by any means, but you know how they say yawning is contagious, right? Well, when you yawn, that's actually a sign that your parasympathetic nervous system is being activated, that your vagus nerve is working, and that you are entering a state of regulation on your nervous system. So I'm curious, you know, if the reason why yawning is contagious is because when you're around somebody who's regulated and they're yawning, and then your nervous system gets calmed down into a state of regulation and it makes you yawn. I don't know. It was just an interesting thing that I kind of realized. I don't know if it's true, but would love to hear any opinions that you have about that, because it is so just interesting and fascinating to continue to explore this topic for me. So for those of you who are watching on video, I did just want to share one technique that has helped me a lot. It's so simple. It's so weird that this works this way, but it does. So basically, if you are in a state of hyper regulation, if you're feeling like your fight or flight is working on overdrive and you're really out of alignment, for one, sit down, take 3 deep breaths. That one works, yes. However, I feel as though a lot of people um, don't know how to take a deep breath, and they're breathing from their chest rather than their belly. So when you breathe from your chest and not your belly, you're actually bringing yourself into anxiety and more of a panic state. So sometimes for me, it's not as accessible. And if you're in a state of anxiety, it's harder to take deep breaths. But know that that's available to you and accessible to you. Just simply sitting down, taking 3 deep breaths, closing your eyes. And then the second one that works really well for me, that like I said, it's so strange, but it works great. So all you have to do is put your hands behind your head. And what you do is just look to the left. Both eyes look to the left, keeping your head straight, but just looking to the left with your peripheral vision for about, and as long as you want, depends how dysregulated you are, but I would say like 5 to 30 seconds, and then switch both eyes to the right. And what that does is it stimulates your peripheral vision. And when your peripheral vision is stimulated, it's actually sending a signal to your brain that you're safe. Because when you're in fight or flight, in a state of not feeling safe, your pupils constrict, you have tunnel vision, you're looking only ahead, and you have racing thoughts, and everything is just really linear. And so doing this really is such a game changer. It has helped me so much over the past week when I feel overwhelmed. And like I said before, the way that you'll know that this is working for you is if you begin to yawn. And it's really a beautiful practice. There's some other tools that are amazing, but I just wanted to share that one with you on here today. Another one, so for those of you who are struggling with hypoarousal, my favorite go-to with that is dancing and singing. Um, so I created like my own favorite playlist with songs that really, really are my vibe, that just get me in a state of like joy and happiness. And simply just getting up and dancing to the playlist and moving around for 5 or 10 minutes will get you out of that and give you more energy. Moving your body in general tends to do that. And so singing too, like I said, can help with both hypoarousal or hyperarousal. Whether you want to do humming, humming works really, really well. Just like a simple vibrating your chest, vibrating your throat, or buzzing like a bee, um, singing, any type of expression with your voice, or vibration in your energetic field of your voice is super, super helpful for either hypo or hyper arousal. And yeah, there's such a wealth of information and knowledge here that I cannot wait to continue to explore. Another thing to mention is that for me, one of the things that I have struggled with is this alignment issue, this injury that I've had for 3 years. And it started in the hip and it goes from the toe to my head. So, that being said, my neck and my jaw and everything up here is super tight. And that's definitely because of my injury physiologically, but it's worsened because I've spent most of my life in hyperarousal, right? But a good way to notice, or so actually your vagus nerve is being inhibited, which means it's not working, which means you cannot get blood to your prefrontal cortex and be in that calm, regulated state if your jaw is tight or if your neck and shoulders are tight. So if you can just do body scans and like even massaging your jaw or closing your eyes and just listening to where you feel tension and seeing if you can send your breath into those areas, because there's so many muscles in the jaw and the face, and a lot of our tension is held there. And if we have tension in our face and in our jaw and in our neck, we are not going to be a being with a regulated nervous system. So I know that that's one that's been difficult for me, and I often notice it the most at night before bed, especially being somebody who's struggled with insomnia most of my life with those racing thoughts. And of course, ding, 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 that makes sense too, you know, because I've been in fight or flight. I've been in a state of not feeling safe because of my trauma. And because I haven't, my body doesn't know that that's not a threat anymore, even though I've done all this work on loving and healing my little girl and all of that. But like, I need to train my body now that it's safe. Like my soul, my heart, like all the feelings, everything, that stuff has been expressed, but my nervous system was never taught that it can be safe. And an interesting thing about that is that, you know, I just learned that the nervous system, as a child, as a baby, you are not able to regulate your nervous system on your own until you are 4 to 6 years old, which means your entire nervous system regulation depends on your mother's nervous system regulation. So if your mother was not regulated, which I would say most of us probably experience that, you aren't going to feel safe, and you likely have a lot of work to do on your nervous system, like I do and continue to have to work on. Something for me too was like, I realized that when I've been traveling alone since I was 5 years old on an airplane, and I was by myself. I didn't have mom or dad with me. I went back and forth from mom and dad. So not only did I not have a sense of grounding or stability or safety, I didn't have them to co regulate my system. I had to do it on my own, but I didn't your body is not capable of doing it on its own at that age. And so it's really important to know this and to give compassion to ourselves and bring awareness around this, because I truly believe that healing the nervous system is the key to fully embodying our truth, fully embodying our highest self, our fullest expression, and living a full life where we can fully be in joy and be open to receiving the magic and the miracles that are within us and all around us, and to connecting on a deeper level with our fellow brothers and sisters who are walking this path. So, with that being said, I thank you so much for being here today, for receiving this information. And like I said, would love to continue to explore this topic, receive any information, any insight. Would love to communicate and connect with you deeper in regards to the nervous system, or in any other way, shape, or form that you see fit. So I hope you have a beautiful day, and I hope that this has provided you with some value, some inspiration, and overall just left you feeling a little bit lighter, or a little bit more hopeful, or a little bit more inspired, or a little bit more like yourself. So I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next week.